Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Rama Rama Hare. Oh, Premanandi. Haribo. Oh. Hare Krishna, Mark.
Hare Krishna.
Long time no see.
Last time was in front of Radha Shamasundara in Vrindavan a couple of years back. Do you remember?
Was it? When? Last year, year before?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. Well, I think our most famous meeting was at the Yamuna.
Oh, wow.
I'll never forget that.
Neither will I.
It was special. Nobody wanted to go in. That was the time when the Yamuna was considered to be the most polluted, materially speaking. That was before they made a bit of an effort to clean it up a bit. It was physically polluted. And it was questionable how much of the actual Yamuna was actually flowing. People were saying it was practically none. Sewer water and what have you coming from Delhi and other cities. And the Yamuna was being, so say, diverted off in different directions. But aside from all of that, Krishna, the spiritual realm, River Yamuna in this case, are not controlled by mundane engineers. Even the best of civil engineers cannot control the River Yamuna. They may think there. Whereas there he is a civil engineer. I was looking at the wrong one there. Yeah. No one can control them. Think that we can control Krishna with our material. This is the material perspective that people may have sometimes. That Krishna is not under the control of his energy. So if you feel the Yamuna is not there, then Yamuna will not be there. She will not reveal herself. Just like with the deity. If we think the deity is not Krishna, then Krishna will reveal himself as not Krishna. He will reveal himself as stone. Or he'll reveal himself as a body of dirty water or something. That's what we'll see. But if we understand that Yamuna is not at all of this world, she's fully present because of our contaminated consciousness, we may not perceive it. Hare Krishna Manjit Prabhu. Where's your young boy? Where's he? Abai? Abai? You took him home, did you? He looked good. And how's Gaurangi? Pardon? Okay, good. Send them my best wishes, please. Everyone on the home front. So, yes, Yamuna, so I think there was maybe 8 of us, I'm not sure, not such a big party of us. I was with a few devotees, then we met you and your wife, right? And maybe 6 of us, I don't know if any. If you were with us, not Jivananda that day, I don't know. It was a day we all took that amazing bath in the river Jamuna. Nobody wanted to go in at first. I said, this is the Jamuna. Krishna consciousness is dependent not just on blind faith, is a realized faith. You will experience. So with much respect, at least we can't say devotion, but at least as much respect as we could muster, we approached the river and entered in, and one by one the devotees, including Mark and his good wife, entered into the river Jamuna. And yes, materially speaking, wow, you were taking your risks, you were taking your chances. But living in this world is taking your chances already, so what have we got to lose? Everything to gain. And it was the most amazing experience. I never felt so much the shelter of the Yamuna River as on that day. It was almost like she was embracing us. It was a really special experience, one of those memorable experiences. Yes. She really, more than usual, that's for sure, revealed herself to us that day in a very loving way, in a very ecstatic way. So ecstatically. For us, we don't know what ecstasy is. What is this? Oh God. A bit too big. It's too big for me. That's better. I feel good like this. I can smell the beautiful fragrance of the flowers. Is that okay? Yeah, it was a wonderful experience, I must say. But that's Vrindavan. Whichever one you like to think. What are you doing? I thought you were playing your flute. I thought I could only see through the side. It looked like you were playing your flute. You play flute?
I have done.
Pardon?
I have done.
You have done. I can imagine you playing a flute. So Vrindavan can be, well, it depends. And as Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. And sometimes we hear, he reveals himself accordingly. And we do too. You know, when we don't reveal our inner heart to somebody we don't have a trusting, confidential relationship with. We relate to them accordingly, cautiously maybe, or even negatively sometimes. Whatever. When Krishna sees that we're open, we're opening our hearts to him, then he reveals himself. Or we take shelter, a child in the mother's lap, of the Lord, and the more the Lord reciprocates. So I thought we'd read a little bit now, for a little while, see what happens. We've been reading a very beautiful book called, I think it's just called Srila Narottama, The Glorious Life of Srila Narottama Das Thakura. One of the wonderful things about devotee family, devotee association, is that there's so many, at least we have access to the life and something at least of so many great devotees of the Lord. But we find this in all walks of life, but especially it seems to me, especially in the Gaudiya line. Especially. I can't speak for others. I know the other Sri Sampradaya also, Madhva Sampradaya and so on, they also have tremendous history and great Vaishnavas. But our line is basically, the Gaudiya line is eternal, but it manifested itself primarily about 600 years ago. It was basically hidden before that. The Vaishnava line was there, but not the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gaudiya Vaishnavas are the followers of Lord Chaitanya's mood. His mood, which is the mood of the highest love of God, not just love of God, but in his highest form, Lord Chaitanya wanted to taste, to experience the highest form, that Mahabhav ecstasy of Radharani. So he revealed that to the world when he came as Lord Chaitanya. He himself experienced it, and he also wanted everyone else to enter in and taste those fruits and distribute the fruits to others also, of Mahabhav, Krishna Prem, love of God. So I was very greatly fortunate that that was made available. And since then, and during the time when Lord Chaitanya was present, there were countless devotees. Most of those devotees that we hear about are those who came with him. They're not conditioned souls, they're not what we call sadhakas, practicing devotees. No, they're eternal associates of the Lord. They may appear like practicing devotees because they have to teach the way to attain that highest form of self-realization, or in terms of Vaishnava, that highest form of prema, or love of God. So they taught this practice of chanting and so on and so forth, following various principles. But they themselves are not even Raganuga Bhaktis, they're called Ragatmaka. Ragatmaka means they're eternally in that mood. They don't practice to develop that mood or even to awaken it. They're eternally situated in that mood. For the sake of preaching, they may sometimes not manifest it. But that's their nature. They're Ragatmakas, eternal associates of the Lord. And then many of the Lord's followers were sadhakas, they were practitioners. They were coming from the group of conditioned souls in one level or another, and to join the Lord's pastimes, and in the association of those what are called Ragatmikas, those eternal associates. One awakens, one develops, one cultures the actual correct mood, attitude, everything, thoughts, everything, which are favorable for one developing or awakening that particular relationship within us, and two, perfecting it to the point where Krishna is very satisfied. So one learns that in the association of those who are, just like we do at school, we learn the association of those who know, those who are more experienced. So similarly in spiritual life, if we want to develop, also in the preliminary stage, if we want to become free of the inclination towards selfish sense gratification, centered on our own enjoyment, then the association of devotees is also essential. In the association, it's like in the association of the sun, the darkness is dissipated. So in the association of great devotees who are nothing but the representatives of Krishna, in their association one can lose attraction for the material sense objects. lose attraction for sense gratification, material, and develop an attraction for satisfying Krishna senses. So there's the association, because they themselves, or everything about them, is focused on pleasure for Krishna, pleasure to Krishna. In their association we gain that spirit, that initiative, that enthusiasm and so on. It's the way that we transform our consciousness from independent form of consciousness in terms of I want to do what I want to do, to the constitutional state of consciousness, I want to bring pleasure to Krishna. They look the same, but they're worlds apart. Of course, there's the stages that we go through in that transformation or in that evolvement, where there's a mixture of intent. But ultimately the goal is to simply be 100% hoitikiya patiyata, unmotivated, uninterrupted, loving devotional service. To come to that point. And Krishna himself says, only through this process can I be seen or understood. This development of loving devotional service. Priti purvakam. With love. Those who engage in thinking may engage in my service with love. I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. This priti purvakam, with this loving affection towards Krishna. So that is evoked also in the association of devotees, advanced devotees. So we can associate with advanced devotees in different ways. Obviously the direct manifest association, you could say, is the most profound and probably the most effective. Although, without the following or the associating of the devotee in the form of following their instructions or the way in which they teach, then there will not be the realization, will not come either. One must apply what one receives in terms of the association of devotees. And certainly not try to imitate, but we try to follow their instruction. So the shishya, or the process of following the vani, there's the vapu of the devotee, their personal association, the vani, their instruction. Instead, the vani is actually more important, because through vani one can realize the vapu. Vapu alone will not actually in itself necessarily lead to the realization of that vapu, or association therein. But when we hear the instructions of the pure devotee, when we apply those in our life, this is the process. By following the instructions of the spiritual master, one gains positive realization of the absolute truth through that process of serving the pure devotees. Krishna then cleanses our heart and gives that revelation to those who dedicate themselves to serving his devotees. It's a very powerful thing. Even without that, to associate with devotees, it has tremendous effect also. But more effective is when we follow the instructions of the devotees. We can also associate with the devotees in absence, as we do in their presence, by hearing about them, meditating upon them, and of course thinking how we can fulfill their legacy, so to speak, their will. So we're going to read this evening a little bit about one of those eternal associates of the Lord. His name is Narottama. He's called Narottama Das Thakura. He's parted from this world, so he's on the level of a Supreme Personality of Godhead, basically. He's not an ordinary living entity. And he's not God either. He's a servant of God, but he's of the same caliber, same quality, empowered by God to do the work of God. In fact, we've been reading last few days about some of the pastimes of Narottama. He appeared in this world sometime after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, next generation. He didn't personally associate with Lord Chaitanya, so maybe he appeared about 500, what is it now, what year are we in, I don't know. What would 500 years ago be? 2024? 1524? Is that right? Yeah, so he appeared later than that because Lord Chaitanya left the planet when he appeared. He'd already left. So he maybe 1550 or something, I don't know, something like that, by our time span, appeared in this world, and he was, to say, I'm not going to get into all the details of his childhood. Somehow or another he was infatuated and mesmerized and completely addicted. He'd heard about Lord Chaitanya from other devotees in the area he was born in, who knew him or knew of him. And he became mad to try to get association of Lord Chaitanya. They didn't have internet or Facebook or any of these things in those days. Messaging would be a little slower usually. But anyway, he became a mad follower in the sense in his heart of Lord Chaitanya. In fact, when he was born in this world, previous to his being born in this world, Lord Chaitanya himself, when he was on his way to Vrindavan on the first journey, went to Ramkeli, and there he met with Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis and their brother Anupam, and of course gave them instructions to dedicate their life to the service of Krishna. And on that journey he also passed by the river Padmavati. Padmavati is a branch of the Jamuna, perhaps the biggest one. It's extremely wide. Sometimes in rainy season you can't see the other bank, it's so wide. Very wide, it can be like 10 kilometers or more wide in the rainy season. Still big even in the non-rainy season, it's not that big. So anyway, there's one town on the banks of that river. Padmavati is called Keturi, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, they came there and on their way, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to dance in ecstasy when he reached that spot and chanted loudly, Narottam, Narottam, Narottam. Nobody knew exactly what the Lord was referring to because there was nobody in their party of that name, and they didn't know anyone of that name, to be honest, and they didn't know. The Lord seemed to be completely crazed about somebody named Narottam. And then the Lord revealed to Lord Nityananda that very soon, Nityananda Prabhu, that very soon across the river Padmavati in the town of Keturi will appear a great personality of the name Narottam in the future. And he will be the manifestation of my Kirtan Shakti to carry on the pure Prem Sankirtan of the holy name. I will invest this in him. And the Lord said, how will that be? And Lord Chaitanya then said, you will see, then Lord Chaitanya entered in, he said, I will deposit my prema, the highest prema through congregational chanting of the holy name, in the river Padma. And when Narottam comes there, he will receive that prema from the river. So then he entered into the river, and the river Padma started to overflow its banks, and the river rose high. It was like a tsunami almost. And then out of the river rose the personification of the river Padma, river Ganga, rose out of the river, paid her respects to Lord Chaitanya, and asked what service did he require. He said, I want you to hold this highest nectar. I'm depositing this in your waters now. That's why you're feeling so blissful. The river was rising because it was feeling ecstasy, bliss, by the presence of Lord Chaitanya. So then the river Padma then said, well, okay, but how will I know when Narottam comes? I don't know who this is. He said, when you feel the same as you do now, when I bathe in you, when a person bathes in you and you get the same experience, that will be Narottam. So sure enough, and Lord Chaitanya said, it is your responsibility, Nityananda, to make sure this happens. Lord Chaitanya said, you must give all this praying which I'm depositing in you, you must give this to Narottama. when he bathes in you. So when Narottama was eventually born, the astrologers came, and many astrologers came, and they could see he had an amazing chart. He was the most beautiful child. Lotus eyes, long ears, long arms. Very attractive baby. Extremely attractive. Dark, very dark skin, but very, very attractive. People were remembering Krishna when they saw him. And the astrologers were all giving such wonderful predictions. Then one astrologer came and said, everything's wonderful, but one thing. He told his father, you have to be careful. Rivers are very dangerous for this boy. Don't let him go near a river, he said. So, of course, nobody knew the import of that statement. Even astrologers, they can't understand spiritual subject matters through astrological analysis. So the father, I think he was a king actually, he never let his son go anywhere near any river. All the time he kept him away from the river. And the long story is short, but I mean, many things happened. But at one point of time, Lord Nityananda appeared to the boy in a tree. Appeared to him in his sleep. So, sleep of some kind of that. And gave him this instruction. You should immediately go, it's in the middle of the night, you should immediately go down to the river and take bath in the river Padma. And the boy woke and did what Lord Nityananda told him. He'd heard of Lord Nityananda. They were all Vaishnavas. The whole village was a Vaishnava village. And Lord Chaitanya, people worshipped Lord Chaitanya. His parents were great devotees also. It wasn't that they were unfamiliar with these things. So he got up with no one around and went down to the river, entered into the river, paid respects, and entered into the river. And when he entered into the river started to rise. Mother Ganga and Padma became ecstatic and realized this is the prediction of Lord Chaitanya, that when I feel this ecstasy, that's the time that Narottama will be entering my waters. And now I must give him prema. So as the rivers rose, Padma appeared and gave that nectar, that highest bliss to Narottama. So then, body transformed, he became golden colored. Golden colored. And he was just overwhelmed in prema, or love of God. He came out of the water and he was rolling on the ground crying, Gauranga, 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 over and over again. Meanwhile, back in the village, in the town, his parents discovered that Narottama wasn't in his room in the early morning. They became paranoid. They were absolutely incensed. They sent guards out in every direction. They themselves were running here and there, searching for him. Nowhere could they find him, because even if they saw him, most of the people thought it's not him. Narottama's dark color. This person's a madman probably. He's a golden madman lying on the bank of the river, or sitting there. But then when the parents of the mother particularly saw him, she saw that he had all the ornaments and the various marks of Narottama except for the color. And she cried that this is her son. And that from that day on, he was a madman in terms of materialism. He had no interest whatsoever, was just maddened. He lost all interest in his studies, in family life, everything. Totally mad for Krishna. So they tried everything they could to keep him home, but it was all to no avail. And Narottama couldn't get away. They had guards on him day and night. They wouldn't let him go. They were afraid. He was the heir to the throne. He was the only son. He was a prince. He was a prince. And they didn't know what to do. They tried to get him married. But just at that time, he was a young teenager. He wasn't even just reached maturity, that was all. His name became very famous because every Vaishnava could see he was manifesting the symptoms of love of God. It wasn't ordinary by any means. And even the Muslim governor, the Nawab, he came to hear about this extraordinary child in Kaituri, and he ordered that he should be brought to his court. He wanted to see him. So, of course, Narottama's father was, oh God, this is terrible news. He couldn't bear this, practically speaking. But he had no choice, because he would had to do what the king said. The emperor, he was an emperor now, the emperor of all the kingdoms. So he had to follow. And so then Narottama went with many, many guards. But on that journey, somehow or another, he was able to escape. And he escaped from the guards. And he ran to Vrindavan. He wanted to go to Vrindavan. So he ran into the jungle, and for many months, many ordeals, he almost got caught. And eventually he reached Vrindavan after many months. A young boy, a young prince. He was exhausted. Many things happened. But he was exasperated. Physically exhausted, run down. His delicate body, being a prince, he wasn't used to such hardship. But his determination to achieve his goal. This is the price, in one sense, of Krishna consciousness. Lolium, ekalolium, this one-pointed greed or enthusiasm, which we don't have, maybe we should have, to achieve his goal of love of God. Reaching Vrindavan in this case. So he eventually arrived there. In Mathura, eager to see all the devotees who were still present there. Rupa and Sanatan had been there, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt, Gopal Bhatt, Kashishvara, and so many others, Lokanath, Bhagarbha, so many other great devotees were residing in Vrindavan. But when he arrived, he heard news that many of them had left the world. Kashishvara had gone, Rupa and Sanatan had gone, Gopal Bhatt, no, Raghunath Bhatt had gone. So many of them had left the world. That was devastating news. But he got reassurance that still Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das, Lokanath Goswami, Gopal Bhatt and others were still physically present at least. So he's got consolation. He eventually ended up at the Radha Govinda temple established by Rupa Goswami. And there he practically fainted in front of deity, not just because of exhaustion, but because of ecstasy. And that moment it happened that Jiva Goswami entered in and brought him, picked him up, and knew this must be Narottama. They'd been waiting for him for a long time. And then he stayed in Vrindavan for a long time. He took initiation, and on the order of Lord Chaitanya, earlier in his life, Lord Chaitanya had ordered Lokanath Goswami to initiate a devotee in the future of the name Narottama, as his only disciple actually. And he told Narottama in his visionary dream that you should take initiation from Lokanath. So this was all arranged by the Lord. He took initiation from Lokanath Goswami, one of the great associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then that was an interesting story, you won't tell it, how he took initiation. But he then became basically speaking, the prime student of Jiva Goswami, who was considered to be the most erudite of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And he was teaching all the Vaishnavas the philosophy of not just Krishna consciousness, of Vedanta, and so many things. And so he studied under him, as did Srinivas and Shyamananda and others, Ramchandra and others. They were studying under Jiva Goswami. Never accepted any disciples. He did have 60 disciples. All the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were taking Siksha from Jiva Goswami. So then at some point of time, after he's taken initiation in the school of Jiva Goswami sent them out on the first traveling Sankirtan book distribution party. They traveled in a bullock cart, and Jiva Goswami arranged with many local authorities all the various clearance papers to get over various borders, taxes and what have you. Plus he provided 10 guards for the books. They put the books in beautiful caskets and sealed the caskets and put nice wrappers and golden cloth around the caskets. And they had a big bullock cart. They were placed on the cart. Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and others too. Their writings were then sent. They were handwritten, of course, in those days. There was no printing press. They were handwritten. They were sent to Bengal to preach on Orissa. That was the idea, that there would be, these three personalities would go there and distribute these books. There's only one copy of each. It wasn't like there was hundreds and thousands of each. There was just one. So they headed off down towards Bengal with all due blessings and everything. There was three devotees plus the guards and a couple of other persons looking after the bullocks. I think one or two of the Brahmins with them. And this was an entourage of maybe 15 to 20 men. They made their way from Mathura towards Bengal. And when they reached the border of Bengal after a month or two's journey, they stopped in a place called Vishnupur. And whilst they were there overnight near Vishnupur, suddenly, to their surprise, actually all the guards fell asleep one of those nights. And whilst they were sleeping, a group of dacoits, bandits, stole away all the caskets, because they were actually representatives of this king, local king. His name was King Birhambir. He was the local king of Vishnupur. And he had astrologers who had told him that there are some pilgrims coming through your kingdom, and they have riches like no one ever has had. We cannot estimate the value of their properties, what they have with them. It's inestimable. The king got excited. He was familiar with sending out dacoits to rob the various pilgrims or people passing through his kingdom of their riches. So he immediately sent his group of number one bandits, the best of the bandits, and the dacoits. They went out and they followed for some time, and then they found an opportunity and they stole them all in the middle of the night and brought them back to the king. Meanwhile, when everyone woke up in the morning in the party, they were devastated, totally devastated. All of the books which they just traveled 1 or 2 months with, almost to their final destination, had disappeared. How is this possible? This is unbelievable. How could this happen? Oh, what's the point of living? This was our mission. We were given this mission by Jiva Goswami and their gurus. And now everything is lost. How can we ever face our spiritual masters again? They were absolutely finished. They were thinking of giving up their lives. They searched here, there, and everywhere. Nowhere could they find any trace of the caskets. Some people, local villagers, said there's a lot of cases like this. A group of bandits are constantly robbing various travelers on the path. So maybe that's what happened. They thought, oh, what to do? What are we going to do? Oh, we got to... They were shocked. We can't move. We've got to stay here and search till the day we die for these treasures. Little like, Hanuman and the monkeys trying to search out Sita Devi. Almost to the point of death. But Srinivasacharya, the leader in terms of age and experience in the party, was free, said, no, you must go on. He felt in his heart of hearts, Krishna was telling him, he had to stay there. He said, don't get so despondent. Don't get so despondent. Yes, it's a very, very devastating experience. Pain, you can't imagine. Failure, call it what you will. You can't imagine how they felt, but he said that no, because there can be no other reason for this other than the divine hand of the Lord is behind this. There's some special reason. What it is, we'll find out. I rest assured, there's a divine hand behind what's happened here. It's not by chance. This has happened. Don't be so despondent. But you must go on now and preach the teachings in Bengal and Orissa, and I will stay here to uncover and find those sacred scripts. The Lord has a plan. So they agreed and they all went their different ways. Now Srinivas stayed there. And sure enough, he did. He had one, he moved around, he met different persons, and heard that the king was daily hearing Bhagavatam classes. He was going to the king's court to hear the classes, and at one point, after many days, the Brahmin priest who was reciting Bhagavatam didn't understand the message. He was mixing, it was all mixed up with, rasa bas, unfavorable understandings, a bit of mayavad, all sorts of things mixed in there. So then he spoke up one day, and the king, his name was Vyasacharya, the king's court pandit, said, "Who are you to speak up? Where are you coming from? You're just a new boy here. I am the king's pandit." And the king said, "Wait a minute, no, hold on there. I mean, if he says that there's something amiss in what you're saying, let this man speak." So then Narottama began to speak and explain the verses of Bhagavatam, and the whole court was mesmerized. Even Vyasacharya, the pandit, became mesmerized. They were astonished at the transcendental nature of this person and his explanations of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the king then invited him to stay. He wanted to talk further. So then Srinivas stayed there, and the king then was talking to Srinivas. He heard him all night. Srinivas wouldn't even eat. He was just chanting constantly. And then Srinivas, king asked, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "Well, if you can do anything for me." He told him what had happened to the literatures that had been stolen. And the king basically broke down and said, "It is I am responsible for this. Such a wretched, wicked person as myself." And he surrendered to Srinivas. Srinivas said, "Don't think anything of it. Actually, this is all the divine hand of the Lord, because if you hadn't stolen, I would have never come here. You'd never met." So the king realized actually it was a good fortune indirectly. And then the king became his disciple. His wife became the queen, became disciple of Srinivas. All of his family, all the court, and all more or less every single resident of Vishnupur surrendered to Srinivas. He revealed those scriptures. When the king first opened the boxes, he was so excited when they stole them. And then when they saw there were manuscripts in there, "What is this? What is this? What is this?" Then he saw they were religious, holy scriptures. He quickly closed the boxes. Oh my God, what a sin I became. He was a kind of a devotee, although sinful at the same time. And anyway, now everything was settled. Srinivas stayed there and trained everyone up in Krishna consciousness before proceeding forward with the scriptures of the Goswamis. I think they had a set made. The king got another set made. They moved forward towards Bengal with the books, and they all met up there, and again later on in Bengal. But in the meantime, Narottama was back home in Kaituri actually, whilst this was going on. And Narottama was very constantly worried about this, what's going on with the books. But he was trying to absorb himself in his service of preaching and doing kirtan. And the same thing in Kaituri. All of Narottama's family, many of them had left the world, of course, but many of them surrendered to him, became his disciples. His nephew became the king of Kaituri. And he became a disciple, became a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya under the shelter of Narottama. And many festivals were held, and everything was going on very wonderfully there in Kaituri, many devotees becoming devotees of Lord Chaitanya. And then one day he asked everyone, he said, "I want to go to Navadvip." He'd never been to Navadvip. He wanted to visit Navadvip to see the places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So everyone gave their blessings, and he went to Navadvip. And when he reached the border of Navadvip, he was so excited he couldn't believe it. I mean, we don't have perhaps quite the same emotions, but his emotions were totally pure and totally, what can we say, absolutely full of prema. So he entered it near to Navadvip. When he arrived there, he was getting so excited. The very soft footpaths were everything was auspicious, but then suddenly everything changed, as if the floor became like hot cinders. Everything became like a desert. And he went, "What's going on? What's happening? Oh my, no, I know. Lord Chaitanya's not here anymore. All his associates have mostly all gone also. What is there? What will I find?" He was feeling like that. Then all of a sudden he heard this incredible kirtan party. A big kirtan party with amazingly blissful looking devotees all dancing and singing and chanting the holy names down the street. So ecstatic. He said, where are you going? What's happening? We're on our way to the house of Jagannath Mishra. Let's go, quickly, let's go, the devotees were saying. Narottama said, please, wait for me. Going to the house of Lord Chaitanya's father. And then when he said, wait for me, everything disappeared. The party simply were not seen anymore. And he was sat there, completely stunned. And suddenly everything turned into like a desert. And everyone looked like a ghost walking on the street, dead. Like walking dead men. Everyone was morose. And he sat there wondering, what has gone? Why didn't I get born during the time of Lord Chaitanya? Why not? Oh, how miserable, how unfortunate I am. You could understand everyone there was feeling in totally like lives were empty, meaningless without Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. But he was sitting there, one elderly, very old Brahmin, someone approached him. Seeing that he was looking like a totally transcendental person, effulgent, golden effulgence rather. And so he approached him, asking, excuse me, young man, who are you? And they started to introduce themselves, and he said, Narottama? You're Narottama? Narottama? Oh, we've heard of you. We've been waiting and hoping you would come here one day. You're Narottama. No, you know about me? Yes, we've heard about you. Oh, how fortunate to meet you. He was very happy to meet Narottama. And then Narottama asked him a little bit about the man. He said, well, actually, yes. I was here during the time of Nimai Pandit. I witnessed his childhood pastimes, his youthful pastimes, his young married life, his Sankirtan pastimes. I witnessed everything. It was such ecstasy, indescribable association. You cannot describe it with words. But then suddenly he left. He took sannyas and left Navadvip. Everyone was devastated, but then especially when he left the world, no one could bear his separation. So many personalities simply left the world almost straight away, or left Navadvip. It became almost like a desolate desert. Still, some devotees were still here. Narottama was very enthusiastic to see everybody, so the Brahmin took him to the house of Jagannath Mishra. And there he met Shuklam. Well, he showed him the way, he didn't take him, he showed him the way. He met Shuklambar, Brahmachari, one of the close associates of Lord Chaitanya. And then took him to the house, guided him. He met Ishan, Sachi Devi's personal servant in the house. Ishan could hardly speak. There were just day and night tears flowing from his eyes, never stopping for years. He'd been sitting there like this, in separation from Lord Chaitanya. It seems a very sad scene, and it is in one sense. We cannot imagine, because in the material world, this type of experience is very painful and very unwanted. But on the spiritual platform, it intensifies one's love for Krishna. It's a form of ecstasy which cannot really be experienced. They sometimes say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but it's not quite like that. It's an ecstasy which is unlimitedly expanding, and depths is in, what can we say, we don't know. We only hear. So they're in this ecstatic mood, which appeared to be intense sorrow of separation, vipalamba. Vipalamba is the essence, you could say, of our practice. This feeling of devotion to Krishna in absence. Or not that I want to see Krishna, I want to see Krishna. It's not the mood of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Their mood is they simply want to serve those who can see Krishna. They want to serve the devotees, they want to assist them. Not that we want to see Krishna, we just want to please Krishna through his devotees. Whether you feel Lord Chaitanya's mood was like that, you can crush me, and your embrace will make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. I don't care. Whatever you wish, my Lord. So in this way, Narottama was meeting these various devotees, and we're going to take it up at this point. I'm in the house for a few minutes, we'll read. In the house of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata, which is still standing there, although they're not there, of course, they left a long time ago. But the house is still there. One or two of the associates are still there. Vishnupriya is not, she's moved, left. But some of them, like Vishan and Shuklambar, just a handful are still there, that's all. So let's read on. As they completed the tour of the house, another elderly devotee entered the room and was introduced as Damodar Pandit. Eager to show Narottama around the Navadvip area, Damodar Pandit and Shuklambar escorted their guest outside and led him down a path 200 meters to the north, to the house of Srivas Thakura. The two brothers of Srivas Thakura, Sripati and Srinidhi, greeted Narottama with enthusiasm. They took him to the courtyard where the Sankirtan movement began. Standing in the now silent courtyard, Narottama's heart erupted with emotion. Oh, why could I have not taken birth a little earlier? He cried. Falling on the ground, he lamented. If only I could have been here. If only I could have seen the ecstatic kirtan performed in this spot. Overcome with intense feelings of separation, Narottama cried uncontrollably. But I am so unfortunate, he sobbed. I was not allowed entrance to these precious moments. Understanding Narottama's emotional state, Srinidhi gently took him by the hand and lovingly guided him to a seat in the shade. After giving Narottama a drink of water, he described the extraordinary kirtans that had taken place at that spot. It was unlike anything we'd ever known, Srinidhi said, his voice trembling. Mahaprabhu was the soul of the kirtan. The tunes we sang were simple, yet indescribably sublime. When Mahaprabhu stood up and started to dance, his companions, electrified, would leap up to join him. Dancing with his arms extended and his eyes turned upward, Nimai would cry out, Haribo! Haribo! During the kirtan, the devotees were often unable to suppress their deep emotions, Srinidhi said. They would roll on the ground or embrace one another. Sometimes they would cry and then laugh and then cry again, or loudly call out in unison, Haribo! Haribo! Hari! Hari! Sometimes they even fell unconscious. Everyone swam in a sea of devotion. Captivated, Narottama envisioned each wonderful pastime in his mind. Once, Sripati said, while Srivas was worshipping the deity in the temple here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knocked on the door. The Lord said, Who are you meditating on? He called out in his booming voice. He whom you are worshipping is standing here before you. When my brother opened the door, he saw the resplendent form of Lord Vishnu before him. Currents of joy ran through his body and he fell into a trance of ecstasy, barely able to catch his breath in his excitement. He yelled for the rest of the family members to come, and after gathering together the articles for worship, he performed arti to the Lord Chaitanya, while offering continuous prayers. Finding comfort in expressing both their love and their grief, the two brothers recounted one incident after another that had taken place in the house of Srivas Thakur. Narottama, Shuklambar, and Damodar Pandit relished every detail. The group spent the entire day absorbed in between pastimes, barely noticing that the sun had set. That evening, after returning to Mahaprabhu's house with Shuklambar and Damodar Pandit, Narottama lay on the floor inside and stared up at the underside of the thatched roof, wrapped in thoughts of Sri Chaitanya, until even the night birds calling in the trees had fallen silent. His heart swelled with gratitude as he pondered how merciful Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to allow such a fallen soul to enter his holy dham. He yearned for the Lord's association with an unprecedented passion. What could be more painful than to see these pastime places without seeing the Lord himself here? It's like looking at an empty stage without the actors. Narottama eventually drifted off to sleep, these thoughts on his mind. I think we've all had some little experiences akin to that in a very relative way when we go to places maybe of our childhood or places where wonderful things had happened in our lives and now there's nothing there. It's just empty. Maybe the building's not even there anymore. Nobody we can't recognize anyone. It's all changed. And we reminisce on the times when we were there as a child or whatever it was. Of course, this is totally transcendental, but the principle is similar. Late in the night, to appease Narottama's lamenting heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates appeared in a dream. They were chanting and dancing ecstatically, just as they had done in the house of Srivas long ago. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spun like a golden whirling firebrand. Sri Nityananda leapt ecstatically by his side, surrounded by Sri Gadadhar, Sri Advaitacharya, Murari Gupta, and many other exuberant devotees. Having witnessed this extraordinary vision, Narottama's heart, burning in the fire of separation, was cooled and soothed, and when he awoke, he was filled with the joy of meeting his beloved. And you feel this intense separation, and of course meeting becomes unendingly more, ecstatic. The following morning, Narottama met many more devotees. He visited numerous places where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had played, sat, wandered, and performed kirtan. Hours passed like minutes as he listened to descriptions of Mahaprabhu's pastimes from the mouths of the devotees who had personally witnessed them. Narottama marveled at the depth of attachment he saw in their time-worn but animated faces. He was reminded of the wonder Uddhava experienced when he saw the love the gopis had for Sri Krishna. The devotees of Navadvip who had once danced and conversed personally with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were now barely alive in his absence. The only panacea for their burning hearts was constant remembrance and glorification of the Lord. Narottama understood their pain all too well, and reverence and respect swelled in his heart. He knew that their lamentation and tears had nothing to do with mundane feelings of sorrow, but were due to profound, ecstatic love of God. Such feelings of separation appear like severe tribulation, but internally fill the heart the apex of sublime joy. Narottama could have listened endlessly to their accounts, but the Navadvip devotees were equally anxious to hear from him. They had waited years to meet this effulgent young devotee, overflowing with prema, whom Mahaprabhu had once glorified. They peppered him with questions about his life in Vrindavan, about the writings of the Goswamis, and about his preaching. Narottama carefully answered their inquiries and described as far as possible the deep secrets contained in the Goswamis' Bhakti literature. Hare Krishna. Well, we can carry on and on and on and on. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Oh, let me just finish this page because he's about to leave Navadvip. One more page. The devotees listened attentively. I hope you're listening attentively. Finding incredible relief and happiness in Narottama's company, they said his radiant features and ceaseless outpouring of profound spiritual emotions reminded them of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They claimed that in his presence it seemed as if the clock had turned back and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was again enacting his pastimes, bringing them the joy of union once more. The only difference they saw was that Narottama was crying for Sri Chaitanya, whereas Sri Chaitanya had been crying for Krishna. As Narottama and the residents of Navadvip bathed in the delight of one another's company, days passed rapidly. Though his heart beat wildly at the thought of leaving Navadvip, Narottama approached Shuklambar Brahmachari and humbly asked for his permission to continue his pilgrimage to Jagannath Puri. Shuklambar's kind eyes reflected both the love and sadness in his heart. Mahaprabhu kept us alive only to see you, and now your visit has given us great consolation. It's made us forget our grief for a while. But there are many more devotees waiting to meet you, so it's right that you should go. By Sri Chaitanya's wish, you will certainly execute his plans and perform wonderful service. Narottama blinked back tears. One by one, other devotees gathered to bid Narottama goodbye. A painful lump grew in Narottama's throat, and his eyes burned as he bent reverentially to touch each devotee's feet. As he said farewell to the last devotee, he collapsed in the courtyard of Mahaprabhu's house and cried uncontrollably. Leaving was unbearable, but he had to go. A gentle breeze blew, reminding him of the ocean of Puri that awaited. Checking his emotions, he picked himself up and began to walk along the road that led south towards Shantipur. After a few minutes, the road began to curve, and the villagers that stood watching him leave would soon disappear from sight. He cast one last glance over his shoulder as the sad faces of Navadvip followed him with tear-filled eyes. Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. The next section is called Jagannath Puri, so we have to wait for that one. Srila Narottama Das Thakura Ki Jai. For your information, I guess related to this, one reason that we are reading this is this week is the world, I don't know what they call it now, but we're supposed to be reading this week. The world, what is it? Huh?
World Holy Name Year?
No, it's the World Holy Name Hearing Week. And who have we got here? Who's